Welcome back to Echo Ridge and another chaos-filled episode here in our Duplicity series, where yes, the Chaos Mountain is already overflowing, and it has to do with this evil point of interest site here. We zoom in a little closer, you can see our petrified fossils in here, but you can also see, well, it's in 400-degree temperatures. I thought I was doing a good thing by keeping a barrier of abyssalite around the outside of it. Well, apparently there were also some hot thermals that extended even further than this, because now this entire area is a little too warm, fluctuating between 100 and 200 degrees. Hence the reason why our poor dupes keep getting scalded, and the fact that I haven't been able to dig further below as I had previously planned. But I do have a plan. No, don't go breathe up there. That's not where you want to go catch your breath. I'm doing two things to counteract this. A, I'm providing some oxygen to the area to hopefully push all these bad gases down. Additionally, this oxygen is quite a bit cooler than all the carbon dioxide now sitting in here. And I'm also starting to siphon all of the gases in and around this area, with the idea is that we'll siphon out all the hot carbon dioxide and bring in some nice cool oxygen. You'll see some progress that I've made from the last episode. Namely, I've encased both the cool salt slush geyser and the saltwater geyser. Only a little bit more to do here, because I need to move all of this water, which we are filling it into a vast array of buffer tanks. Will all of these buffer tanks hold all of this water? No. Do I have enough ore to build enough buffer tanks that would be able to hold all this water? I don't think so either. So I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do. But right now, all the water is being siphoned into here, and then it goes out to be desalinated to be used in spawns. And what is going on here? Oh, this is the previous damage. This thermal regulator is now doing good work, keeping our new deep freezer nice and chilly. And as I said in the last episode, I would show you how we fared in this one. You'll notice there is 6 backcountry grills, complete with a deep freezer that is, well, still cooling down. I really hope I don't lose a lot of the calories that we have. We're up to 3.3 million, but the hydrogen and the thermal regulator are doing the best they can. The reason why it's a little warmer is because I had to transfer all that food from our old kitchen all the way over here, which caused it to heat back up. So it's going to be a little while until this actually becomes a functional deep freezer. You also notice we have 100 mess tables, which will be enough for every single standard dupe. And I've been slowly getting rid of all the mess tables over here. That way they're not going to one side of the base to grab their food and the other side to eat it. It's slow going, but we almost have all the dupes transferred over here, which is also causing another problem, and that has to do with oxygen. You'll notice here at the sleepy headquarters that the oxygen is at its lowest. Wait a minute, where are the sleepy dupes? Okay, they were just at the refrigerator. No big deal. But it's because 7 dupes spend all their time in this area breathing. Well, there's only one gas vent and it's not even fully oxygenated. So I need to get working on more spawns. The problem is, I kind of wanted to get rid of some spawns and then create all of them in a nice, neat area, but I don't think that's going to work because if I ever tried to remove one of these spawns, bad things would happen. But the long and short of the condo situation is the fact that, well, we have all the mess tables, we have all the bathrooms and gunk extractors in, we have the kitchen, a pair of recreation rooms, and all of the barracks needed, which means all that's left is suits and oxygen. Well, this geyser here is not exactly in a convenient location, and neither is this one, in terms of being able to put suits and allow the dupes to leave. So what I was figuring is we would just add in a whole lot more recreation down here, and then finally build the suit system down here. Unfortunately, the hot rock is standing in our way, so I'm going to need a massive amount of cooling to be able to take care of that. But once I do clear all this out, I'm thinking I can put 2 or 3 rows of suits in here. Remember, I'm shooting for about 100 to 120, and then all the spawns down here. At least that's the goal. So what I think we're going to do first and foremost is get a polluted water cooling loop going. This one is taking care of the cool steam vent, so I'm not going to mess with it. But there was one that we were using to cool the old base. I don't see why we can't just move it over. But then again, I do need the cooling here for the mushrooms. But if all the duplicates are out here in suits, they wouldn't be consuming this oxygen anyways. So maybe the massive cooling loop here would still keep everything nice and chill. But there is something that I've always been hesitant to do, but it's not too bad of an idea. You may have seen in the comments plenty of times asking me why I try to cool down the cool steam vent so much. After all, it's just going to go into a spawn and heat back up anyways. So it's more efficient to cool the area where the oxygen is going than the water going in. And the reason why I've always done this is for expandability and future-proofing. No matter what I need this water for, it's going to be the right temperature. But in this case, we could sacrifice a little bit of that expandability and just use this loop. So I think for the simplistic nature of this, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to have this whole thing go straight up. Passing in front of the brine geyser is also going to help because it is nice and cold up here. And I'll even make the loop go in front of the power transformers because they do emit heat. And let's say we go every 3 levels. Oh shoot, I was making all that out of sandstone. That's not good. For one, sandstone is not the best conductor, but for two, we don't have too much of it. Let me do a quick comparison here between sedimentary rock, granite, and igneous rock. You can see the granite has a specific heat capacity of 0.79 and a thermal conductivity of 3.3. Igneous rock is 1 and 2, and the sedimentary rock is 0.2 and 2. So our best options here are going to be the igneous rock and the granite, and I'm thinking the igneous rock considering we have so much more of it. So let me select igneous rock and replace all this, and then start to do my loopy loops again. Now you'll notice I don't have any radiant liquid pipes in this yet, and quite frankly it's because they're not going to be needed, at least in the short term. Standard pipes do still spread their thermals around, albeit not nearly as effective as a radiant pipe. I think what we will do is bypass this and return, because right now the fluid is going to be going up. This is not going to be a bad idea. It's going to get a little warm down here, but that's going to be okay. I suppose I'm not going to need this leg anyways, because it's going to be returning somewhere else. Stand by for a little bit of spaghetti, but it's going to be okay. And I'll fill this whole pipe. Please ignore all the scalding messages. We're building the leg down by the hot rock using the polluted water that is heading to the fertilizer station, which hasn't been producing much as of late because, well, we don't have any dirt. At least coming out of the sludge press because, well, the grubs only produce the mud so fast. Oh, there's some soggy feet right here. But I can fix this a little bit by putting a bin here because we do have 59 tons of dirt around the colony. Ooh, and I was about to connect that into the absolute wrong place. Let's go right here. So it wasn't as close as I thought it was, but this will still do the trick. See, here's a little bit of the dirt coming out now. And it's instantly made into fertilizer. It's just, well, not as much as we want. But on this bin, I can select dirt. I'll put it at a priority of 4. Somebody will come around and fill that thing up. And the 60 tons of dirt should last a lot longer for our fertilizer synthesizers. What are we going to do for dirt in the long term? I don't know. Possibly some pips and trees if I ever get my hands on pips and trees. I'm going to fast forward this and drive myself insane with all the scalding messages, and I'll give you an update here in a few. Before I do that, I also wanted to give you an update on the rail system. Remember, all of the food was heading down into either the deep freezer or the evolution chamber. We now have everything being rerouted into our new kitchen. Most of it ends up here in this evolution chamber, where any sort of meat will get picked up. But we also have the fresh mushrooms coming in here and hitting the water, whereas they instantly get picked up and thrown into this conveyor loader as well, where they get dropped into 2 positions of the kitchen. One here and one here. Now, as soon as one of these grills is ready to start cooking some more mushrooms, it will grab them and throw them into the grill. A cook will come by, cook it, then the auto sweeper will pick up the completed food and then ship it off to our deep freezer, where we have one auto sweeper loading this fridge for everybody to be able to eat from. The only issue in the system is the fact that, as you can see, this meat's not being picked up yet. And the reason why is because a dupe already got the errand, just like in the case of Pajama Llama here, to deliver it to a backcountry girl. And that happens because, well, right now we have 72 idle dupes. Nothing I can really do about that. I could have these rails ending up in a conveyor receptacle, but I chose not to do that because I'm also dropping off things like eggshells and stuff here. Now maybe in the future I'll have all those eggshells being delivered to the rock crusher, but there are some things that we are going to need to do in here, such as suit repairing. So while I did say a lot of these are going to be recreation buildings, I do think one level is going to be dedicated to work stuff. The cooling loop is finally filling. It will take a while to fill this whole thing up. It's going to be quite a lot of polluted water. Now I have no doubt that this thermal aqua tuner is not going to be able to keep up, at least with the requested temperatures that we're looking for. So what I need to do is make sure we change this thermo sensor to something more realistic. Like, we can still pump the water as long as it's below 60 degrees. And we'll see how the cooling loop performs, and I'll start nudging that down a little bit at a time. Another one of the more cumbersome tasks that I'm up to is trying to reroute a lot of these oxygen lines. Some of these are not being used at a best capacity. For instance, we had 2 legs going to just the suits for the slime farm. So I've reduced it down to just 1 leg, which means I have a spare leg right here. But what I think I'm going to do is have this do a hop, skip, and a jump down here and send it somewhere over here to help oxygenate this area, at least temporarily. To tell you the truth, once I have our massive system of spawns that I've been talking about for too many episodes all in place, I'd like to remove some of these and simplify the system a little bit. Because while it's starting to look a little bit better, it's only going to get worse before we hit our finished product. What's going on now? That's another reason why I need to get oxygen to this area. That fresh oxygen will help. I think I'm also going to add a couple of radiant pipes in here to help out with reducing the temperature in the area. And I think it also makes sense to add some radiant pipes around here. Since this area is so cool, we can pick up some additional chill, which will help with the effectiveness of the cooling loop. Another area of concern for oxygen delivery is here in the backup power supply. When we start running low of power or when dupes are bored, we come and run on wheels. Well, with that many dupes in one area breathing, they consume quite a bit. So I was thinking about putting a backup wheel system in our main base, so dupes can run on the wheel without even having to get into a suit. But once again, this all relies on moving all of this stuff out of the way. I'd like to start doing some digging in here and clearing all this out, but as soon as the dupes start hanging out here too much, they start getting scalded. Also, there's not a lot of oxygen to breathe because there's so much carbon dioxide. It's a slow process for sure. I suppose, though, I can start in this area, start draining all of this ice. That'll eventually go into its own heating system to turn into clean water that we can feed into our spawns. It's going to be a dumpster fire because there's not a lot of oxygen under here either. But you have to start somewhere. Oh, and there's a little more buddy in this point of interest area. In addition to starting to chop down these biomes, which is filled with scalding and suffocation messages, I am going to start pumping this out, because if I can get maybe this amount of area clear, that'll give me enough space for 3 or 4 spawns. I'll probably start with just 2. That way I can really start pushing the oxygen over here. It is getting a little bit better, slowly but steadily, but it is going to take a while. In other news, I am waiting for the pods to pop. I am waiting for our 100th standard dupe. After that, it'll be nothing but Bionic dupes to get us all the way up to duplicate number 200. Yet another project I have to start working on before I seal all the dupes in are the power bank chargers. These need to be automated for the simple reason is I can't have 100 Bionic dupes all needing to go into the sauna to grab a new battery. So these are going to need to be dropped off somewhere inside the base and then the empties brought all the way back. Right now we have 42 Bionic dupes. So at a minimum, we need 21 power bank chargers to keep them all powered. Now we are up to 26 megajoules and an excess of 221 units. So I do think I have enough in excess to be able to redo this system because it's going to be a little while before we have fresh chargers going. And I think I'll start the system somewhere over here. It's going to take most of the top part of the sauna, but this is once again going to be slow going, because I have to do everything piecemeal. If I queue up too many errands at once, yeah, all the duplicates will get to work, but then they'll also start suffocating because they won't get the errand quick enough to go breathe. Not a big deal, we've got this under control. In a little bit of fun news, we did break into the Morb's apartment, and it looks like we are ready for a neural vacillator treatment. It's been a while since we've done one of these. Interestingly enough, it does look like you can put Bionic dupes inside the neural vacillator. I think we're gonna opt for a standard dupe though instead. Don't worry, next Wastelander. Tomorrow will be a better day. We also have a couple of lockers to rummage through. I really ought to start putting all these dupes into snazzy suits. That would probably help out a little bit. One thing at a time. Warm coat, that's no help. And it looks like Alaret received the sunny disposition trait, minus 20% stress. If only I could do every single dupe. That would take quite a few artifacts though. And another warm coat, no help. At least we got some databanks out of the lockers. We're down to 20 megajoules and the retrofit is underway. It is a cluster to say the least. I am building a couple of extra hydrogen generators for the simple reason that we are going to be adding more spawns, so we're going to have to deal with more excess hydrogen. One thing I've realized, I probably want all this hydrogen to be sitting in insulated pipes because otherwise the hydrogen is actually lowering the temperature in here. Yeah, it's sitting in the gas reservoir anyways, but every little bit helps. Why are you sleeping over here? Oh, Clarky's narcoleptic. No big deal, rest it off. This is a pretty good example of how the dupes get a little confused when there's 141 of them sitting in and around the colony. Granted, the save didn't exactly help my point, but you can see how long the dupes take in between receiving their next errand. Now, this is on ×3 speed. I am just no longer able to play at ×9 because dupes will just start dying because they can't breathe. But all of these dupes are in their work schedule. They just take a little longer to figure out their tasks, which can include breathing. You might say, Echo, well, just play on standard speed. And standard speed does help. Unfortunately, it would quite literally take me 3 times longer to record a single episode. So the process I've been doing lately is just sort of going to triple speed for just a few minutes and then going back to single speed. And by doing that, they start catching up. Why did you jump all the way over there to catch your breath? There seems to be safer places for you to go breathe. Like quite literally all over this area. I'm partially through the update to the battery system, and as you can see, we're down to 14 megajoules worth of available batteries. I have one row coming online now. The issue I'm having is trying to figure out how I'm going to drop off the empties. The issue is, if I bring things on rail, for instance, if it came in the sauna this way and went down this row and then went down this row, well, what would happen here is 50% of the batteries would go down here and then 50% would go down here. That's okay. That's kind of how we'd want it. But then if I wanted to drop them using conveyor chutes, something like this, what would happen is 50% would end up going down this chute, and then these two would share the other 50%. In other words, the power bank chargers at the end of these rows, I'm hoping to be able to get 3 in there, would be getting less of the empties than the front of the row. There is no automation from the power bank charger that says, hey, I need a battery. If there were, we could easily automate a system that would open and close the conveyor chute when it was ready for another battery. The next idea would end up being using conveyor receptacles, and this is what I'm going to end up going with, although we will still see somewhat of this issue. The only difference is, instead of the empty EcoBank chargers dropping down here, they'll stay in the conveyor receptacle. And if I add enough Eco power banks to the system, well, these will end up getting full, and so more of the power banks will go down to the last conveyor receptacle on the line. The other issue I have is this is an awfully long conveyor rail run, and I'm not quite sure if I have the rails to be able to do it. Oh look, somebody must have peed themselves. As an example, just running the delivery line this far cost me about half the gold amalgam that I have. And there goes all of our gold amalgam. I did make one of the routes though. Now I need a duplicate line that comes all the way back here that delivers the empties. I suppose we're going to be using iron? Those 2 lines are going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to hear about 700 scalding messages. Do not worry. Our colony has medical facilities that will be able to take care of the dupes just fine. Oh, down goes our first dupe. And funny enough, as soon as I take it off a ×3 speed, this is what I was talking about before, we're getting a lot less scaldings because the dupes are smart enough to leave this area. Well, maybe not all of them. Our cooling loop has managed to make this area a little cooler, but I'm starting to think that this thing is actually emanating heat somehow. Remember, Abyssalite's not supposed to transfer any thermals, but I'm not very convinced because this area has been being chilled and pumped with fresh oxygen for quite some time now. Oh my goodness, we're down to 8 megajoules worth of power. At long last, duplicate number 100 has arrived. This Lindsay is a doctor decorator who's not very good at building. Don't worry about it, Lindsay. Not too many dupes here are. Welcome to duplicate number 142 in our last standard dupe of the playthrough, Kuriki. Things are about to start getting real rough. We're down to 3.5 megajoules. Apparently my surplus of power wasn't such a surplus after all. We do have some eco power banks ready to be delivered right here, but looks like I'm gonna have to rebuild these, even though we do have enough gold. Sometimes the errands just get stuck. Here they go, the first eco banks of our automated delivery system. Granted, it's gonna take them about a half a cycle to get all the way up here, but I have them being dropped off in one of the great halls, and then this conveyor loader is gonna pick up all the empties and send them right back. All the scaldings and the suffocation messages that you may have been hearing in the background was because we've managed to get another row done here. So I'm going to wait for a little while to allow the oxygen pressure to continue to push down all the carbon dioxide and the chlorine gas. I'll probably have to move this gas pump down once again. Here's a prime example of all the dupes just sitting around waiting to suffocate before they want to move on. It even happens on the slow speed, although not nearly as often. There we go, we've moved the gas pump down, so now it'll start siphoning all of this carbon dioxide. I think I want to add a system here that's going to take all the new empty eco power banks that we create and possibly just put them on that line. It's not too far away. We still have some of this iron. Remember, the iron is not necessarily needed because we have the refined metal iron volcano. So I'm just going to hook this over there. And apparently we used all of our iron, because now it wants me to use steel. I will not be using steel. Why can't I build conveyor rails out of refined metal? Eventually, I'll be able to get into this pond and recapture some of the ores here, but I definitely can't do that right now with our power levels so low. We are back up to about 4 megajoules, and each one of these rows has 13 power banks for a total of 26, which is more than we actually need. But I'm going to try to put in this third row, and eventually we're going to have to start squeezing them everywhere for the simple reason that we need at least 50 of these. And of course, you want a few more than 50. That way we're accounting for all the transit time while the eco power banks are on the rails. It's always good to have a few extra. Why did M-Cell pee their pants while they're in the middle of ranching? That's just another prime example. There is probably 16 different toilets around this colony, but they decided to pee over here. Told ya, the dupes are just getting confused these days. There is some good news about all this digging. There's quite a bit of iron ore in some of these biomes, although I wish I could tell you where all this water is coming from. Apparently somebody else made a mess somewhere. I was sitting here trying to work around this joint plate connection here that we had vacuumed from a long time ago, and I realized I don't need it anymore, which kind of feels good. It truly was temporary. For once. And I didn't even think that was temporary. Oh dear goodness. This entire time I have not noticed. We're down to 650,000 calories. What is going on in here? Why is this not cooling down? Please tell me I didn't put some sort of bridge in the middle of this. I mean, I suppose it could be this power wire. Let me go ahead and fix this. And I will just snip this off like that. And hopefully that will continue to freeze because apparently we've lost quite a bit. Oh no! And the entire deep freezer is full of polluted oxygen. Well, looks like I'm getting there again, huh? Apparently there was not enough carbon dioxide. Is there a smarter way for me to do this? what if I put a little bit of oil right here, then deconstructed this? All right, prepare for yet another dumpster fire. I can't win. I can't win today. I am going to try to take all the rot pile and everything out by using this auto sweeper and a storage bin. I'll update you on that in a few minutes. Hopefully our dupes won't starve to death, because if they do, well, that'll be all she wrote for this colony. Okay, I found the problem. I'm a giant idiot. I put our, which is now effectively a warming loop, right through our wonderful deep freezer. Because of course I did. So I'm going to try to fix this. And I don't think I'm going to worry about the oil solution, because if I just take the cap off of this, there's a chance enough carbon dioxide will fill it up, or I can just throw in some bleach stone that will end up overriding the carbon dioxide. I mean, if the rot piles could off-gas and override the carbon dioxide, why can't the bleach stone? Okay, we now have carbon dioxide in here once again. It does seem to be dropping in temperature, although not quick enough for my liking. Come on, hydrogen, I need you to hurry up, please. We're down to 650,000 calories, and I have moved the warming loop out of the way. Makes me wonder, how many people saw that when I did it? Let me know in the comments below. I think I found yet another problem with the hydrogen line. You can see that the hydrogen's coming in here at 7 degrees. Well, by the time it hits the end of what was regular gas pipes, it was already up to 13 to 14 degrees, which I didn't think was really a big deal, but when I saw the difference in temperature, I decided to insulate all the pipes, despite the fact that they were in insulated tiles, because our deep freezer is still not a deep freezer. We've also completed the sauna renovation, and we now have 54 power bank chargers, and we're already back up to 16.2 megajoules. Nope, not printing a dupe, for a total of 135 eco banks. I also turned all the eco banks onto a priority of 1, so there's less of a chance of a dupe getting the task of dropping off a battery, and more of a chance of allowing the automated system to do it. You'll notice some of the conveyor receptacles are starting to get full. One empty eco power bank at 20 kilos fills up about that much of the conveyor receptacle, but eventually they will all be filled, just like this conveyor receptacle here is. But until they are, I'm continuously churning out more and more eco power banks. I've got another 87 on deck. Other than that, we've got a little bit more digging done, and now we're vacuuming out all this carbon dioxide. It's been very, very slow going. Why are we hanging out there? It just doesn't make sense. This one's been a real kick in the tuchus, so in the end, I hope you enjoyed a little bit of the chaos. Don't worry about those suffocation messages. The dupes are going to be fine. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.